being a professional tennis player to being a big-time player in the technology industry, Scott Baxter built PlayYourCourt into a global platform. One lesson, one customer, even one pivot at a time. Today on Legacy Unscripted, Scott shares how listening to customers, not investors, became the key to building a business that actually lasts. We'll talk about bootstrapping, fundraising mistakes, how digital marketing, growth, and risks have affected his business, and how focusing on family has actually made him a better CEO. Scrappy, honest, built to scale. Let's go. Welcome to Legacy Unscripted, sponsored by Progeny Coaching. This is the podcast where sports and business collide. I'm your host, Russ Katzman, and here we'll skip the fluff and get straight to the hustle. From athletes turned entrepreneurs to impact-driven business leaders, we dive into the wins, the lessons, and some of those failures that make our legacies worth living. Today, I'm happy to welcome Scott Baxter, founder and CEO of PlayYourCourt. Scott, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Russ.
So one of the things I find fascinating, and we've seen this on this show a couple times before, is where we take a professional athlete and now they're an entrepreneur. You were a professional tennis pro. Talk to me about what that life was like, how that contrasts versus being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I grew up playing the junior national tour. Went on to play Division I college tennis at University of Maryland, and that is where I learned there's other countries out there. I
That's funny.
I thought I had a really good chance of turning pro. I was top 100 in the country growing up. Thought, hey, I'm going to just really put in the work at practice at University of Maryland, and maybe I've got a chance. And on my very first day of college tennis practice, I lost to the number one player from Trinidad. And I don't know if you're a tennis fan, but there's not a lot of pro players that we've ever heard of from Trinidad. So I knew I better pay attention in school. And then ironically, I graduated with a marketing degree at a time where that was not great, around 2006. And so actually on to coach tennis. I said, look, I love tennis. I want to continue in the sport. Clearly, I'm not going to be turning pro with it, despite, dabbling a little bit and trying. So I turned into, a tennis coach, was working at one of the most elite country clubs in all of Washington, D.C. That is a much different job, as you can imagine, than being your own boss and being an entrepreneur. But what I will say is, as far as jobs go, you as a tennis coach, you're running your own lessons plans. You're really working with clients to fit them into your schedule. So it's maybe the closest coaching job there is to being an entrepreneur. There are some similarities that I did actually enjoy, and I still love coaching and helping people improve both tennis, business, really anything. So some synergies, but certainly some differences.
So were you a W-2 employee at that time, or were you 1099 to them?
I was W-2 at Chevy Chase Country Club in Washington, D.C.
Chevy Chase Country Club. That's awesome. So, the transition then was a fairly smooth one for you, or did it kind of rock your world when you realized, shit, there's a whole bunch of people out there that are going to kick my tail around on the tennis courts. I need to have a backup plan.
Yeah, you go from being a really big fish in a really small pond to hanging out with all of the really big fishes from their respective small ponds and realizing you're not actually that big of a fish. I learned that pretty early on at University of Maryland. I still wanted to be involved in tennis. I was still coaching, weekends, days off, when I didn't have class. So tennis has always been a big part of my life. But yeah, taking that and turning it into a career was never really the plan. I was very humbled early on in my college career and realized, shoot, like this probably isn't going to be the path I go down. Now what? Studied marketing. I remember calling my mom, and at the time I was like, I don't really know what I want to be when I grow up. I always thought it was a pro tennis player. It seems like that isn't going to be it. She's like, just go into the business school. Like, you can sell ice to Eskimos. This is certainly like what you're meant to do. And I was like, okay. So I went to the Robert H. Smith School of Business at University of Maryland, actually a pretty prestigious business school, fortunately.
That it is.
Graduated with a marketing degree. And then once again, I had to call my mom and say, hey, would you be mad if after 4 years of college, I wanted to coach tennis as my first job out of college? My parents jokingly said, we've spent way more money on your on your tennis career than we have on your education. And they spent a fair amount on my education too. So, but no, very supportive parents. And that helped me sort of lean in. And it all came full circle, right? The marketing degree, the business experience, and now the tennis are all sort of married into one really exciting entrepreneurial journey.
I'm just amazed that at that age, when your mom suggested that you go to school and you go to business school, you actually listened to her.
Well, I was already at the school, so I had that going for me. I
True.
had, I was already there. I had to study something, so I
Yeah.
knew I wasn't going to drop out of college, and I knew I wasn't going to turn pro at tennis. I was very acutely aware that I needed to pay attention to some sort of education pathway.
Well, and the fortunate thing is that you had the opportunity to choose that path. Sometimes people, due to injuries or whatever, they have it cut short before they have an opportunity to walk away.
For
So you
sure,
had an opportunity, whether you liked it or not, at least you had an opportunity to walk away.
absolutely.
Um, all right. So give me the evolution then from Chevy Chase Country Club to Play Your Courts. What was that kicker for you to say, there's something here that's not being served?
Yeah, so I mean, Player Court was born out of my own need to find more business. But I'll tell you, like, I never knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, even as I was entrepreneuring for the first couple of years. So when I was working at Chevy Chase Country Club, I just had people every single day come in and say, "Hey, I've got friends that can't afford to belong here, but they want tennis instruction. These suggestions for where they could go." And the answer was no. Like you had to be a really wealthy person. DC traffic, like it's not like you're going to drive a whole great distance. There's sort of these three prestigious clubs right there. If you can't afford them, you're not playing tennis. And so I said, you know what? Like I'm young, I'm a hustler. I want to make more money than just the 40 hours I'm teaching a week here. So I started teaching non-members on my days off on public courts, and the demand just grew way faster than I ever thought possible, to the point where I was starting to farm out lessons to some of my friends at other private country clubs and take a cut. Like I was their lead gen. And so I said, you know what? Like there's probably a business model here. I took the only 5 grand I had in my bank account at the time, and the first version of PlayYourCourt.com was born, and I was the first coach on the platform. I still remember pizza parties in my Rockville, Maryland condo with me and the 3 other tennis coaches that were on the first version of PlayYourCourt.
Oh, that's funny.
Fast forward to today, we're the biggest tennis lessons marketplace in the world. So but yeah, as I was building that, I didn't have like an aha moment where I was like, I need to launch a business and become an entrepreneur. I just saw a pain point that needed solving. And I said, you know what? Like I should solve that and make some money in the process. I had a pain point on my end. I wanted more hours. I wanted to generate more income coaching tennis. And so as I built this thing out, it became pretty obvious, like, wait a second, this is a real thing. This could be a full-time career and, even an exciting business trajectory.
So do you consider yourself an entrepreneur now, or are you still just a tennis coach who kind of brings people together?
No, very much an entrepreneur now. I have all the battle scars to prove it.
Okay. And we will get to some of those battle scars in a little bit because I want to talk about some of those. But let's talk about the successes first, right? You've gone from the country club to bringing guys together around pizza and, forming this thing, et cetera. What does it look like today?
Yeah, so I mean, I sort of told you the evolution story of how the platform got started. That
Yep.
is one of very many things that we do. So we really got the lessons business to be this nationwide thing and constantly growing. And then we just listened to our customers. Customers were saying, hey, we're having a hard time finding people to practice with. I kind of dug in a little bit and learned the number one reason somebody quits tennis is because they just can't find somebody around their skill level to
Oh,
practice.
wow.
So at the time, we launched basically a find a partner widget, and that's sort of transformed into a subscription community that has over 25,000 paid members inside of it now.
Wow.
We've leaned in a lot on the video instructional side of things. We had a lot of people say, "Hey, like, I love your lesson service, but I still can't even afford lessons through you guys. How can I learn and get better?" And so we launched a lot of YouTube content. We launched our YouTube channel. We
Yep.
started putting a lot of free content out there, creating content for our members inside of the community. And we kind of accidentally launched one of the most successful instructional YouTube channels in the game. And off the back of that, sponsorship dollars have come in. Now all of these brands, in tennis and outside of tennis that want to tell their brand story to our tennis audiences, are now coming to us, and that's become a revenue stream. So it's just constantly evolving. But I would say it constantly evolves successfully by listening to our customers, understanding what their pain points are, and continuing to solve problems. That's how the whole business got started, and that's how it continues to kind of grow and evolve.
And this is how many years old now?
Sheesh, the gray in my beard should tell you. I launched it
I
in
can't say anything about the gray in your beard.
fair. It was an idea in October of 2008. So that's when PlayYourCourt
Okay.
LLC was formed. It was a side hustle all the way until June of 2014 when we raised our first round of funding. Um, and that is when I would tell you it became a real business where I was full time on it.
Yep.
My CTO, who is still my business partner now, I've been working together for over 16 years. Him and I at that point left our job. We raised enough money to leave our job and start this thing full time. And we've now raised over 6 million in funding and built the biggest tennis lessons
Nice.
marketplace and fastest growing tennis community and a great YouTube channel. And I'm really tired. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't doubt that you are. Um, 2014, then, let's go back to that. Let's kind of talk through this funding piece.
For sure.
Why go for outside funding? What were you missing that you couldn't get in the bootstrapped world that you wanted to allow investors into this?
Yeah, so for those of you that are out there and you are bootstrapped and you're thinking about raising money, please go search the Forbes article that I wrote called How Not to Raise Your First Round of Funding. Because, spoiler alert, when you're a tennis pro turned CEO, you get some of those initial stages super wrong.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I got to the point where I saw the vision for where this thing could go. I was in that weird intermediary spot where it wasn't generating enough income for me to pay myself full time and continue to invest in the growth. And the mistake that I made, that first round we raised was $250,000. And in my head at the time, I said $250,000 will pay both for me and my business partner to quit our jobs,
Mm.
do this full time, and have some money to invest in some of the other things that we were excited about at the time. Unfortunately, I gave up 38% of that $250,000 for that $250,000. And the reason was I didn't know how to raise money. I had never done it before. So here I am, a tennis coach wandering around, with a pitch deck in my hand, trying to tell rich people what a great idea I have. I don't have any proof of concept. We've got a little bit of revenue, but nothing that's the type of traction you can slap a really high valuation on. So
Right.
what I wrote in the article and what I would tell anybody paying attention that's thinking about raising money, raise the minimal amount you need to prove to somebody that your valuation is what you think it is. Because that was the problem. I had gone back and forth with people that were interested. No one would agree on the valuation.
Yep.
Uh, if I had just raised, say, 25 grand and bootstrapped, um, with just that 25 grand a little bit longer, I'd probably own closer to 60% of my business right now. So lesson learned, it's still going to be a pretty good outcome for us based on the trajectory, live and learn. But yeah.
Got it. Um, I'm sure we'll come back to that when we start talking about lessons learned later on. Um, so talk to me about, you mentioned all the time about listening to those customers, and the people that you're serving. How has that ICP, that ideal customer profile, changed from when you started to what it is today?
Yeah, that's really top of mind even right now. So we really thought originally this business was for people that couldn't afford country clubs, right? Like we
Yeah,
launched this lesson service because that was how I met all my first customers, is they couldn't afford Chevy Chase Country Club, right?
sure.
What we realized, and I actually realized this in year one, some of my members at Chevy Chase Country Club wanted to book lessons with me because I was available at a time where they couldn't get a court or a lesson at Chevy Chase Country Club.
Yeah,
And some of the most famous people on earth. I remember when we were tiny, tiny to the point where I'm checking the sales page every day.
yeah.
Daniel Negreanu, professional poker player, signed
Hmm.
up for one of our lessons in Las Vegas. And I was like, oh my God, I was a big poker guy at the time. I was like, this is incredible. I
That's
hit
pretty
my
cool.
business partner up. I was like, can I email him? He's like, no, don't be a weirdo. Um, but so I realized, it's the convenience factor and the idea that a tennis coach will come to your local court is
Yeah,
for all people. I think Daniel Negreanu probably had his own mansion with a tennis court in his backyard that we were sending coaches to, right? So I
sure.
realized, this actually solved problems for more than just people that couldn't afford, uh, a tennis club. And then we're realizing this even lately. The more we've worked on this find a partner business, and this is a pretty good, I guess, lesson teaser. Um, we worked on this find a partner software so hard, and churn continued to get worse to the point where I was just baffled. And I picked up the phone and started calling customers. And what they said was like, it works great. I met 9 people in 48 hours. Thanks. And I was like, oh no, we had
Oh,
become
oh,
match.com where you met your wife
yeah.
on day two.
Yeah.
and didn't need Match.com anymore. And so we're realizing now, okay, like our actual most valuable customer is the people that come in for an array of different reasons, but they stay because they want to really improve their game. And so for us, that opened up a huge total addressable market. There's a lot more people out there that want to get better at tennis than there are people that need just someone to practice with. And so now that
Yeah.
that's more of our vision and path forward, every tennis player out there is really part of the total addressable market. So, we went from really targeting what we thought was maybe a less affluent person who couldn't afford a country club. And now we're just targeting every single human on earth that wants to get better at tennis. And we've got expensive services for those that can afford them. We've got high-end training with professional. We do a doubles workshop with the Bryan brothers every year in Indian Wells, the winningest
Oh, yeah.
doubles of all time, where you spend $5,000 for one day, to have access to
Wow.
these superstars and instruction with us, all the way down to a community for $8 a month that helps you connect with evenly matched players in your area. So the avatar is changed and it's expanded. Now we really are trying to help just about everybody that wants to get better.
So how have you been expanding this? This goes to your marketing degree, right? How have you taken what was, that you and a couple guys around pizza and grown it to what it is now? What was the kind of that key of getting that that level of interest that matters to grow this thing?
Yeah, so I mean, look, you know this from business experience. CEO for the long time stands for Chief Everything Officer, and then eventually you
Yes.
turn into Chief Executive Officer. I learned all this from scratch myself. So as good as I am at tennis, I may be more studied and qualified in digital marketing now than I even am in tennis, because I had to learn it all from scratch. I mean, my first
Sure.
marketing campaign was, and I've actually since learned this is illegal, so don't turn me in. I flyer bombed mailboxes in
Yeah.
Bethesda one, right? I had the first version of the website live in 2009. I was so excited. We turned it on. I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for all the lesson leads to come in. And then like a day went by and I was like, no one knows this exists. That's a problem. I probably need to figure out how to figure that out.
Yep.
Really early on, and this, I'm not getting paid to say this, maybe I should be. There's a business called digitalmarketer.com, gentleman named Ryan Dice, where they kind of just give you really just like playbooks back then for how to run Facebook ads or how to index in Google. And so kind of just learned all this stuff from scratch. Fast forward to today, we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in paid advertising across the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the TikToks, the YouTubes of the world. And we have a huge partnership network. I mean, um, the personality that our brand and sort of people have built around Player Court, I think makes us pretty appetizing to work with. The tennis industry is very full of sort of just old, boring folks. We're very much the young, disruptive, tech forward,
Right.
uh, maybe Barstool Sports meets high level tennis instruction
Uh,
type of brand.
yeah.
Uh, so partnerships and really forming relationships with other businesses and cross promoting has been a big part of our marketing strategy. But yeah, look, I learned it all from scratch over a very long career.
Got it. And how many full-time employees do you have now?
So this will be a lessons learned as well. We have had as many as 19 working here when we thought we were going to be this tech empire that
Oh,
would
yeah.
solve everyone's find a partner problems. Now that we have shifted into more of an educational platform and content is more king, there's actually only 8 folks that work here, an array of contractors that certainly help us, but 8 full-time folks here at the moment.
And so talk to me then, and this is probably a shift from that 19 down to 8. Talk to me about the culture that you've established within the organization. Obviously, tennis is a part of it, but there's a whole lot of cultures that you can build within an organization that's as distributed as this is. Talk to me about your culture.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty well established, and it's built directly off the back of me and my business partner Nate's personality. So I don't know if you can tell from just interviewing me for a few minutes, but we like to have fun over here. So like one of our core mission, like one of our key values is there's no room for boring in what we're building. If you're not excited about building it, it probably shouldn't be built in the first place. So that rings true with sort of every lane. Everybody that works here now is really in their specific superpower lane where they're excited to do what they're doing every day, and that creates the best output. But um, I have a business advisor that's tried to coach me out of this several times. We really have built what feels like a family, and that can be dangerous, and it has been because when you have to let your family members go, that's a really uncomfortable conversation. But another one of our core values is we never leave you worse than we found you. So I think just there's this high degree of trust and competency that we only hire A players, that we look out for each other no matter what, that we care more about each other at the personal level than we do about business. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't take the money with you when you die. It's more about the relationships and the impact you made. So our
Yep.
culture is really built more around how we care about humans and treat them than it is exclusively business. We do have a core value that is A players only. And so that means we only hire the best and the smartest in every lane. And we found that 8 A players can truly do the work of about 800 C players. So it's been,
Well, that's probably true.
yeah.
Right. I think the other part of the A players only, the very interesting part of that is you end up having to hire them before you really need them, because you run across somebody who fits the culture, has a great fit, great personality, exactly what you would want in an employee 6 months before you really need that employee.
We talk a lot about right person, right seat as well, and
Yep.
you'll read that in a bunch of business books. But like
Yep.
we made that
US.
mistake. I mean, look, like you grow and you learn. Everybody wasn't always in their right seat, but we've always done a pretty good job of hiring the right person. Meaning, they fit in with the company culture. They're self motivated. They're smart. And then sometimes you see them shift into different seats within the organization where they truly excel, and it's hard to get that right, first try all the time. So.
Gotcha. So, and this may not have happened yet. Feel free to say that. What was that moment? Give us the story, some of the context around when you said, "Damn, I made it." Did you get there yet?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been a very rocky journey, as I think most startups have.
Yep.
We have lived a pretty interesting existence because we've transitioned through a period of time where people valued company based on top line revenue, and then all of a sudden, not at all. It needed to be a very profitable thing, right? So, like when we really were getting traction with this, the mindset was growth over EBITDA, like growth over profit on the P&L. And
Hmm.
we had a business advisor within the last really year and a half say, hey, like if you ever want to have an actual exit event here, those days, at least for right now, appear to be over, and you need both. So like you need to be showing some growth, but you also need to be showing some real profit. So
Yeah.
we'd raised over 6 million. And a lot of times, I mean, there was multiple years in a row where we were intentionally losing money on purpose, but we had raised money for that plan. And so it's been a really big change. In the last really like 18 months. And what I would say I've made it is I don't have to raise another round of funding ever again. And as a CEO, that's your favorite thing to say out loud if you've ever had to go
Yep.
through fundraising. So that to me is where I said, okay, wow, we're self-sustaining. I don't have to come up with a new idea or raise any money to keep the team I have or execute the vision that I have. So yeah, I would say really within the last year that piece has sort of washed over me as CEO finally.
I love that. I always use the phrase with my clients, becoming your own bank,
Yeah.
right? To where, if we need to invest in this or that, we can do that, right? We've got the money to do that. We've got stuff in short-term investments or liquidity that we can pull from and do that when we need to.
It's a big
And I
lesson.
just love that idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a big lesson learned for me as a CEO because I always had the mindset shift that what we're building is so exciting that people would always fund it. And I was right,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And then I had a business advisor say, you shouldn't just raise money because you can, maybe show a little bit of a profit here and earn the right to take that next step from your own bank account and hold on to more of your company. And you
Yeah.
live and you learn. Like I said, I mean, I may have a business degree, but I started as a tennis coach. So a lot of these lessons you learn the hard way. I mean, there's how you learn is experience, I suppose.
Yep. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Exactly.
Love that too. This is one where you can answer it if you want. You can lightly dance around it if you want.
I'm
But
nervous.
you mentioned the word exit.
Yep.
One of the things that often happens when we start to bring in investors is they get antsy. They start to see good numbers come through. They start to get antsy to push towards that exit, sometimes before we're ready. What does that look like for you? Have you heard some of those murmurs? What's it been like as the CEO?
So one of the things I've done correctly from day one is raise money from people, from angels, and not as much friends and family, more like local angels that truly believe in me as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and that I'll figure it out. So the original business plan we raised money on has it looks nothing like what's actually going
I'm
to get
sure.
us to an exitable event, right? But I had numerous investors say, I'm betting on the horse here, not the race. Um, so I think like for us, our goal is to be able to exit the business and be able to create a liquidity event for ourselves, for our investors. It's not necessarily something we have to do. We would like to be in a position where we have the option to.
Hmm.
Um, and I should run for office with that type of response. But
It
um,
works.
yeah, I mean, look, the goal is certainly to create generational wealth off of our hard work for our leadership team and our shareholders. There's a lot of different ways that can happen, and I'm learning that more as I get deeper into my career and understand more of these types of opportunities that come along. So we'll see what happens. We're really enjoying what we're doing every day, and that's typically when the biggest check comes along and
That's true.
takes you out of it. So we don't feel much pressure. It's been great to have the investment group we have. Everybody that has invested in this business, I think, is fairly likely to see a multiple on their investment, and that's also really relieving to say. And it takes the
Yep.
pressure off when your shareholders are seeing the company doing well and they're seeing it continue to grow at a pretty exciting rate. The pressure to sell it right then and there, slows down quite a bit, as you would imagine.
So, what are some of those risks that have popped up for you that may get in the way of that in the short term or long term? And how have you mitigated your exposure to those?
Yeah, I mean, look, rising ad costs, I think, is going to be the answer from every CEO that spends money on Facebook right now. I mean,
Yep.
so, you know, every business owner that spends marketing dollars on the internet really has got to pay attention to Mark Zuckerberg's mood in a given
Yeah.
point in time, right? So, some of the bigger the bigger concerns we would have, and some of the things that would devalue your business in a potential exit scenario, would be how much are you relying on another platform for your success, and so that is very top of mind for us. I mentioned earlier in the call, we're very big on partnerships. That's one of the main
Yep.
reasons why. When I build a real relationship with somebody and we have a nice joint venture and I'm making them good money and they feel good about, our business and services and putting them in front of their audience, that's a lot less likely to disappear or rise in cost than if Facebook decides to, 2x their ad costs tomorrow. So
Yep.
I would say that would be the biggest risk is just rising ad costs. And what we're doing to mitigate it is trying to spend more money with partners than we are on these digital platforms and become a little bit less reliable on sort of the paid media rat race and more reliable on partners that we have real relationships with.
So talk to me about them briefly. I mean, the one of the challenges for young entrepreneurs or early stage entrepreneurs is how do I find these partners that are going to add to the business that I'm building? How do I bring them in and let them underneath the fold, behind the curtain, whatever phrase you want to use, let them see what I'm doing without, you know, giving away the farm in the process. What do those partners look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to sound a little bit cliche, but the best marketing, even for partners, is an unbelievable product, right? So when you're raising eyebrows because what you're building is so cool and so many people are flocking to it,
Yep.
anybody who's out there trying to make affiliate revenue is going to identify your business as a potential option for how they could do that. So a lot of our partners are inbound. A lot of people come to us and just say, "Man, what you're doing is so cool. I've got an
Hmm.
audience that I think would buy your products and services." And then a lot of it is relationship building, and then putting that irresistible offer in front of them where it just makes sense to promote. Our goal is always to put an opportunity in front of a potential affiliate or potential partner where it's just a no brainer to say yes.
Okay. I like it. So without giving away any strategy, give us an idea of what's next.
What's next for Player Court?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And player court or even for Scott Baxter.
Yeah, for Scott Baxter, it's continue being an awesome husband and father is always priority number one. I have
Yeah.
found that being an awesome CEO comes nicely off the back of those other two things first. So
Well
uh,
said.
priorities are very much friends, family, in being a great husband, being a great dad. While running the business, what's next for Player Court? I mean, we tinker with it a little bit earlier in the call. We really have realized that this find a partner lane is not capable of creating the TAM that we really want to have access to make the impact we want on the industry. So
Okay.
we are really shifting towards playing better tennis faster more than helping you find newly matched practice partners. We're going to do both. But the front end of our marketing funnel, and you'll see this for anybody that's paying attention or anybody that's played this anywhere near their phone and heard the word play your court a couple times, you'll probably start seeing our ads. But
I'm sure.
but yeah, I mean, what's next for us is we really have got the core model has recently pivoted and is now dialed in, and global expansion to help people play better tennis all over the world is really what's next. International expansion to all English speaking countries is a top priority in 2026 with the hope of global in 2027. I mean, with AI, there can very much be an Espanol play your court very, very easily. We can take a lot of our content, put it in other languages. So the goal would be, let's focus internationally to the English speaking countries, the UK, Australia, Canada, obviously. And then as AI continues to get better and better, how do we translate that effortlessly over to non-English speaking countries and create a global footprint?
I like it. And maybe you never know. Maybe we get Daniel Negreanu in here as a sponsor or tied to poker. You never know. We are
Yeah.
in Vegas after all, at least I am. And I'll tell you, there was a guy on the pod probably a couple months ago who mentioned that Arnold Schwarzenegger's an idol of his, et cetera, et cetera. Sure enough, he sent me something a couple weeks ago that Arnold had sent him a video, and that Arnold had listened to the podcast. So put it out to the universe. We want Daniel
Yeah.
Negreanu. Somebody's going to connect us to Daniel Negreanu so Scott can talk to him again.
Free lessons for life. You just got to tell us how you play such good poker. Yeah, please, Daniel Negreanu. If you happen to somehow end up listening to this, holler at your boy.
There we go. We'll get it. Second to last question for you. You're talking to that 2014, maybe 2008 version of Scott Baxter. What do you tell him about the journey that's ahead? What couple lessons are you going to tell him that puts him in the right place?
Just be patient. It's not a straight line up and to the right. We've all seen the memes. It looks more like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, be patient and also understand that the success that you're looking for isn't going to come from anything other than your own hard work. I think a lot of entrepreneurs believe one investor or one partner or closing one deal is going to be the magic wand that waves them to success. My experience in my own entrepreneurial journey and watching a lot of others is that's not the case. Like, you've just got to keep your head down. You see so much noise on the internet about overnight successes. They're very few and far between. Just believe in the process. My favorite quote that I've ever heard, I don't remember even who said this, but somebody was asked, what did it feel like right before it started working? And they replied, like it's not working. So just be patient and understand that the entrepreneurial journey is a process. On the fundraising side, don't raise more money than you need to prove that your valuation is what you know it is.
Yep.
And also make sure you prioritize your family and your spouse and your kids first. I actually had a problem with that when I was really obsessed with the business. I got to a point where I was a little bit worried I wasn't going to be the awesome husband and father I knew I needed to be, and went through like some serious focused energy on, hold on, what do I actually care the most about? And ironically, when you focus your energy there, the business seems to grow even more prolifically off the back. So
I love that. Anything, Scott, that I haven't asked you that you wanted to make sure we got to today? Anything coming up? Anything you want to put out there when this comes out in a few weeks?
I don't think so. This has been great, man. Thanks for the time.
No, I appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on and joining us. So that's a wrap for this episode of Legacy Unscripted. If today's conversation sparks something in you, don't just let it sit. Take action today to build your future. Make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this with someone who needs to hear it, specifically Daniel Negreanu. And if you've got a story to share or just you want to connect, you know where to find me. Till next time, keep it real, keep it bold, and keep living your legacy.